But this will be how to use old school Google AdWords mentality for success in the current age.
Okay, that's a good one. Let me just read up a little bit. Okay, Michael, please continue. I'm going to cheat a little bit.
Look, I think this is the good way to look about this is in trying to. I always think about things naturally in ways of frameworks. Like, what's a framework where you can take the stoic or ancient philosophical approaches of Google AdWords and bring it to this new age of advertising? And I think it's probably looking at it in, as people call, like the stages of the funnel: bottom of funnel, middle of funnel, and top of funnel. And I think with any campaign, with any client you're working with, you've got to be in, like, this is the difference between delivering value and perceived value. Sometimes you've got to do the perceived value and you're like, we're doing all this bells and whistles, which we don't do at MarketLead because that ain't my jam. But then when you're actually going for the actual value, it'd be focusing on bottom of funnel and then moving up the funnel back to the top. And the bottom of the funnel is when you can use the old school Google Ads tactics of high intent keywords, direct response advertising, direct response copy, really good like landing page that just gets to the point where you're just trying to drive people to click and convert or click and sell. And once you've done that bottom of funnel, then you can move up and start to do maybe more research-based keywords, and then move up into other campaigns, being it YouTube retargeting or YouTube brand awareness, or prospecting. What are your thoughts there? Like, I've kind of maybe even covered it all, or maybe not, because I don't.
That's everything, Michael. There's nothing. No. You know what's funny is I think nowadays it's so tricky, right? Because we want to use exact match and phrase to have the control to say, hey, I want long tail keywords. I want to be very specific about the searches that we show ads for, right? The thing is, now we've got these close variant match types, right? So this is like Google saying, I know you didn't turn broad match on, but well, let's just try it anyway and see what happens. And so basically Google's going to open it up. So if you're looking at doing, let's say, emergency HVAC services, right? Like, that's the keyword you want to go after because that is a very profitable one and you're willing to bid a lot on it. But Google decides, hey, I know you put in an exact match, but let's just go after people searching for HVAC in general, or like DIY HVAC. And you're like, wait a second, this is not exactly what I wanted. Like back in the day of Google AdWords, where if you put that in exact match, that's going to be it. That's like all you're going to show for.
That one impression a day.
So that's the tricky thing. That's the tricky thing is we like to think about it and that we want to start bottom of funnel and then build up the funnel from there. But Google makes it a little bit messy, right? Because of these things like close variant matching and people that just don't know any better with match types and use the default recommendation, which is just start with broad match. We'll figure it out. Just spend thousands of dollars and we'll learn. Instead, you have to really control this with negative keywords is probably going to be your number one tool for this for you beginning advertisers, right? Yeah, you're going to put in exact match, phrase match, whatever. You're going to go into it expecting that your search term reports are going to be full of things that are a little bit higher in the funnel than you're prepared to pay for. And that's okay. You just got to make sure to add those negative keywords as you go. Michael, one thing that is really tricky, I find for some advertisers, especially newer ones, is they can't wrap their mind around like phrase match versus exact match negative keywords. So I think it plays a big part in the strategy we're talking about. How do you usually talk clients through this, or how do you guys think about it at MarketLead?
In terms of using negative keywords?
Phrase match versus exact match negatives. Like, should we put it in that type of match type or exact match? How do you guys think about it?
So this is just my approach. I've always done it this way. It's not. It's interesting. No one's ever asked me this before, and I've never thought about it before, but this is my process. Number one is I'll go through the search term report, especially if it's a new campaign, daily, and I'll just do an exact negative on that keyword. That way I get that little cross symbol circle thing, just so I know mentally that it's been excluded, because even though it may be a unique term, I want to know that it's been excluded just for my own well-being. What I'll do is I'll also have a text note next to me, like on my computer, and I'll just look for phrases or words in there that I know no matter what, 95 to 100% of the time, it's just going to be irrelevant. DIY, PDF, whatever it is. I will already have a standard negative keyword list in the account, but every business is different. So I'll exact the negative word, the phrase, and then I'll look for exact words, one word, and I'll just put into the list, like this text note file. Then if I notice that there are 2-word themes, I will put them in as phrase. That way, when I copy that list into the account or like the account level and then apply it to the campaigns, I've got the single words that will be always negative, and that will be on the broad. That will just be broad. And then I'll have the 2 words that will be as phrases. Make sense?
Yeah.
Is that what you do? Yeah.
That's
Anyway,
fair.
that's what I do. So once again, I exact negative the term just to ensure that I can see that it's been like I've reviewed that keyword, and then I've got my actual approach that cleans it out quite aggressively.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. There's some real sexy advanced ways to do it through the API, so that you can essentially like keep a log of things that you've already added, which is really nice. So that way you don't have to look at terms that you've already taken care of. So basically, if you were to do a lot of negative keywords in phrase match, it becomes tricky over time to know whether you've excluded something or not. So like, let's say you try to have a schedule every 7 days. I'm going to look at the account. I'm going to add. I look at the search term reports. I'm going to add negative keywords, but sometimes you're like, man, sometimes we did on Monday, but something happened. Now we have to do it on the Friday before. So our whole last 7 days kind of, it overlaps the last one. And you're like, did we add this? Did we not? One of the nice tricks, at least in the interface, that anybody can use is actually adding the negative keyword at the ad group level, right? It's not going to be ideal because you're only going to get, I don't know, 10,000 or so at an ad group level.
Yeah.
That'll be more than enough for most ad groups and most accounts. But what's nice about that is when you go, if you use the UI, you can see in the search term report that it's been excluded that way. It's just kind of like a convenient way to have that visual cue to like, I don't have to look at that. And you can put a filter in the search term page that says essentially don't include if it's already been excluded. Whereas if you add it at the negative keyword list, I don't know if it's still like this, because again, I do it like outside the interface myself, but it used to be that if you did it at the negative keyword level, it would still show up in the search term report. It wouldn't show as an excluded term because technically it's at the account level. I'm not sure if it's still like that. So correct me if I'm wrong. But
Still is, and that's once again why I do it. Now, Cory, the other thing is, just for our listeners, is there's 2 ways to segment when you do this. Number one, do it based on what gets clicks, like do it by impressions descending, and then just look at it by clicks. So what's actually costing money. And then if you've got the time, look at it by things that have like 0 clicks, maybe 1 impression. Because even though there might be thousands of 0 clicks, 1 impression, but you'd be able to pick up a theme in there, or you could even just get that put into ChatGPT and just see like, hey, what are the themes of these keywords, or what are the words that are showing up most often? And then you can just do a bit of a cleanup there. Because I found most of the gold in having a very successful account hasn't come out from putting negative keywords on things that have already been clicked, but it's things that haven't been clicked, but there's been an impression. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't get a click for that. So it's almost like you get like a bit of a preview of where your money could be wasted, and you get to get rid of it beforehand. It's just like, it's almost like you're walking to a cliff, but it's a foggy night, and your flashlight only goes a few feet ahead, and you just get that little bit, and you're like, okay, cool. Let's pull that back.
Yeah, so, 100%. Another one too is CPC. So just sort descending by CPC, because you might be shocked at what you find. Like, wait a second, $42 for a click here. Yeah. So that's a good one to see kind of what's going on at the bidding level, what's actually happening in the auctions themselves. I just want to circle back really quick to the match types with negative keywords, because I think really analytical people, this could be business owners that have been doing it since maybe like 2014 or something like that. They still call it AdWords. They get really like pedantic about every little negative keyword. Like they look at the search term report like multiple times a day, like on their phone, through the Google Ads app or whatever. Like they are so on top of it. And to be honest with you, it sounds great, but I think that micromanagement, which is what it is, I get saving money, especially if it's your business. There's probably other things I could argue that you should be spending your time on that would actually make you more money than the tiny $2 that you would ever spend on a click. But regardless, you have to be very careful with these negative keywords, especially if you're going to start using phrase match negative, or even worse, like the more than like 2 or more word broad match negative keywords, which I usually just recommend. It's probably too dangerous for most accounts. Just do phrase and exact if you can. But the problem is you start going a little bit crazy with adding all these phrase match negatives, and you don't really realize what you're now missing out on. You just assumed, because you're just doing it constantly, that doesn't really seem like we want to show for that. Let's just add it as a phrase match negative. thing is, guys, Google's not going to show you what you didn't show up for. That's just it. It's the wall has been set. You are now blocking stuff. And man, I have seen it before. Where adding a ton of negative keywords, like 10,000 or something, can really hurt an account because you had the right intention, but you didn't think through at a granular level how that was going to affect potential conversion opportunities later on. So that's a really big thing. I want to remind people of that.
And with that, like not being like what I said, but that's why you go through the list and you may put the one word in like DIY or PDF, things that you know are complete junk. So at least you're just like cutting out that. So rather than, because most of your wastage would be around a few terms or phrases. So if you just cut them out from the start, like most of the accounts we work on, whilst we do negative keyword cleanups every week, most of the time we're not doing negative keyword cleanups because we've done this really simple approach from the start just to really clean it up to ensure that the purity is there. So as you've said, it's like people micromanaging that. It's like, are you serious? Like you don't need to do it. If you do your job properly up front, it's like an investment. You invest up front and then you get all the results in the end, or you get the investment return. There are other things you can do that are significantly better.